Who was Buddha? Buddha means one who is awake. The Buddha, who lived 2600 years ago, was not a god. He was an ordinary person named Siddhartha Gautam, whose profound insight inspired the world. Buddha is not a name but a title. It is a Sanskrit word that means a person who is awake. What a Buddha is awake to is the true nature of reality. Simply put, Buddhist teaches that we all live in a fog of illusions created by mistaken perceptions and impurities, hate, greed, ignorance. A Buddha is one who is freed from the fog. It is said that when a Buddha dies, he or she is not reborn but passes into the peace of nirvana, which is not a heaven but a transformed state of existence. Most of the time, when someone says the Buddha, it's in reference to the historical person who founded Buddhism. The bald, chubby, laughing fellow many Westerners think of as Buddha is a character from 10th century's Chinese folklore. His name is Buddha in China or Hotai in Japan. He represents happiness and abundance, and he is a protector of children and the sick and weak. In some stories, he is explained as an emanation of Maitreya, the future Buddha. Do Buddhists worship Buddha? The Buddha was not a god, and the many iconic figures of Buddhist art are not meant to represent God like being who will do you favors if you worship them. The Buddha was said to be critical of worship. In fact, in one scripture, Sigalovada Sutta Dikha Nikaya 31, he encountered a young man engaged in a Vedic worship practice. The Buddha told him it's more important to live in a responsible, ethical way than to worship anything. You might think to worship if you see Buddhists going to Buddha statues, but there's something else going on. In some schools of Buddhism, bowing and making offerings and physical expressions of the chopping away of a selfish, ego-centered life and a commitment to practice the Buddha's teaching. What did the Buddhas teach? When the Buddha achieved, he also realized something else, that what he had perceived was so far outside ordinary experience that it couldn't entirely be explained. So instead of teaching people what to believe, he taught them to realize enlightenment for themselves. The foundational teaching of Buddhism is the first truth. Tells us that life is dukkha, a word that doesn't translate neatly into English. It is often translated as suffering, but it also means stressful and unable to satisfy. The second truth tells us dukkha has a cause. The immediate cause is craving, and the craving comes from not understanding reality and not knowing ourselves. Because we misunderstand ourselves, we are riddled with anxiety and frustrations. We experience life in a narrow, self-centered way, going through life craving things we think will make us happy, but we find satisfaction only briefly, and then the anxiety and craving start again. The third truth tells us we can know the cause of dukkha and be liberated from the hamster wheel of stress and craving. Merely adopting Buddhist beliefs will not accomplish this. However, liberation depends on one's own insight into the source of dukkha. Craving will not cease until you realize for yourself what's causing it. The fourth truth tells us that insight comes through practice of the Noble Eightfold Path might be explained as an outline of 8 areas of practice, including meditation, mindfulness, and living an ethical life that benefits others, that will help us live happier lives and find the wisdom of enlightenment. What is enlightenment? People imagine that to be enlightened is to be blissed out all the time, but that's not the case. And achieving enlightenment does not necessarily happen all at once. Very simply, enlightenment is defined as truly perceiving the true nature of reality and of ourselves. Enlightenment is also described as perceiving Buddha nature, which in Vajrayana and Mahayana Buddhism is the fundamental nature of all beings. One way to understand this is to say that the enlightenment of Buddha is always present whether we are aware of it or not. Enlightenment then is not a quality that some people have and others don't. To realize enlightenment is to realize what already is. It's just that most of us are lost in a fog and can't see it. Is there a Buddhist Bible? Not exactly. For one thing, the several schools and denominations of Buddhism do not all use the same canon of scriptures. A text esteemed by one school may be unknown in another. Further, Buddhist scriptures are not considered to be the revealed words of God that must be accepted without question. The Buddha taught us to accept no teaching on authority alone, but to investigate it for ourselves. The many sutras and other texts are there to guide us, not to indoctrinate us. The important point is that Buddhism is not something you believe, but something you do. It's a path of both personal discipline and personal discovery. People have walked this path for 25 centuries, and by now there are plenty of directions, signposts, and makers, and there are mentors and teachers for guidance, as well as many beautiful scriptures. The traditional story of the Buddha's life may not be factually accurate. We have no way to know for certain. Historians today generally agree there was a historical Buddha and that he lived sometime in the 4th through 6th century BCE, give or take. It is believed that at least some of the sermons and monastic rules recorded in the oldest scriptures are his words, or something close to his words. But that's as far as most historical scholars will go. Have there been other Buddhas? In Theravada Buddhism, the dominant school of Southeast Asia, it is thought there is only one Buddha per age of humankind. Each age is unimaginably long time. The Buddha of the current age is the historical Siddhartha Gautama, another person who realizes enlightenment within this age is not called Buddha. Instead, he or she is an Arhat or Arhant, worthy one or perfected one. The principal differences between an Arhat and a Buddha is that only a Buddha is word, the teacher, one who opens the door for all others. Early scriptures name others who lived in the unimaginably long ago earlier ages.